In a way, the welcome is like an internal welcome, right? That we welcome the fullness of our own self. That the one that we are waiting for is our very own self. The one that we're waiting for to show up in the life is the fullness of our whole self. We're waiting for a depth of presence in order to recognize and really feel the natural wholeness of our whole self. Whole self here, whole self in, whole self blossoming and flowering in the uniqueness out of the unified field, out of the one field, the one wholeness, out of the all that is. So just to be here, just as you are, just as we are, like a deep relaxation, like a complete exhalation, and just to be here, just as you are, just as we are, real and true and open and free to be yourself, to soften and relax into yourself. That the great discovery is in the silence, in the stillness. The great discovery is in the silent presence, in the deep and natural sense of just being here. That it's possible to meet ourselves in so many ways. And the constant invitation of life is to widen the receptivity of ourself to include everything, and to deepen the receptivity of ourself to carry that fullness of ourselves so deep into the heart that is always open, in a way to merge the sense of personal heart with the full, unbounded heart of grace, the full, unbounded heart of light. There are so many ways, and we are all unique, and yet there's only one truth, only one field, one silence. So just to be here and just notice what you are noticing in an open, receptive allowing, in a way to meet yourself here, to be with yourself exactly as you are, noticing what feels soft and gentle and present and patient and kind, And notice too what feels stirred or maybe carrying more tension. Maybe if there's some contraction, and just openly welcoming all of yourself just by being awake and aware, being awake and aware of yourself in a way that isn't dividing the moment, isn't judging the moment, isn't judging yourself. It's just open to the fullness of this moment, just as it is. Mm. Recognizing the felt sense of presence, of just being here, just as you are. Curious thing is that we are waiting for the wholeness to show up, and yet the wholeness is already here. It's just that we can be habituated to divide, to limit. How can we widen to include more of our self? How can we open our reach to include all that we are, every fiber, thread, and atom, all that we are, with kindness, with a natural sense of presence that sees, oneself seeing itself, gazing upon itself, beholding itself, and all happening in the glory of the one heart. Mm. That in the relaxation, there's like a dropping away of all of the ways that we have maybe learned to posture, hold ourselves, all of the ways that we have learned to present ourselves in ways that we find acceptable, almost like showing our best face, showing up the way that we feel that we might be accepted or create connection, or at least definitely not upset anyone. And yet what we're really invited into by life, by grace, by the glory, is to be real, is to open to a depth of knowing ourselves where we can be real, real and true. And that it's not about how we present ourselves, it's about knowing our own self, our own heart. And instead of presenting ourselves to the external in a way that we might think will be acceptable, it's about being present with ourselves, all that we are, meeting ourselves, not denying any part of ourselves, and in that meeting, being very real with ourselves, recognizing that we have parts that we are accepting and joyful and easy with, and recognizing there are parts that where we can be holding judgment and criticism. Holding guilt and shame and doubt. Ways of limiting and dividing the moment. The constant invitation of life is to undivide the moment, undivide the heart, and open to a presence that is so naturally receptive, all-inclusive, naturally and deeply receiving of itself. The freedom and the love that we are longing for is a freedom from dividing and limiting, and allowing the fullness and the blossoming of our own heart to be an expression of the divine. So just resting. And what are you noticing? To be with yourself and just notice what is calling for the attention. To be aware without identifying and getting involved, but not trying to change anything, not trying to fix anything, not trying to adjust yourself, but just meeting yourself. What a glorious invitation life is offering us to meet our very own self. That in a way, the one we are waiting for is the fullness of our own heart. That salvation is in our own heart. As we connect in with the field of presence, we're opening to a field of light, a field of transmission, a field of God and grace and glory, to which we belong. A field of revelation, a field that is revealing love, revealing love in everything, revealing love as all there is. And that revelation of love is a field of openness, a field of the unconditional openness, total inclusive receptivity. And we're being invited to recognize that this is our own nature. This is our natural way of being. And in a way, our own hearts are longing for that revelation, for love to be revealed. for the truth of who we are to be revealed. Just to recognize how that is present in your own heart, in your own way, in your own language. Just to feel it. Feel the longing, the call. To remember our identity in God and glory, to remember our identity, to receive it, to accept it, to recognize that we're not looking for something that is outside of what we are already, that we are opening in total acceptance of our true identity. Our true identity in God, in glory, in love, in wholeness. And when we enter the longing of the heart, when we enter that sense within, where that call is, where that pull is, we open to the field of revelation in the stillness, in the silence and simplicity. We open to the field of revelation. Mm. The recognition of what is already here. As we rest here in this deep relaxation, we are open as one field, a field of transmission, a field of resonant light that is constantly revealing itself to itself. Flowing as one field of consciousness, moving to recalibrate and restore the divine pattern. And in a way, that restoration, as it's happening, is shifting our sense of being divided, our sense of being limited, to bring the nervous system into the capacity of a refined remembrance, a resonance of recognition, a deep knowing that is ever present of the essence nature of what we have always been, of what we are one with. Mm. So just resting here, noticing what is here to be noticed. Mm. Noticing the natural holding and seeing of awareness, just being awake and aware. That the awake awareness is still, silent, and unmoving, untouched, undisturbed by anything that is moving and changing. And as we look upon the field, just watching. Mm. And so we make ourselves available for revelation, dropping into a deeper, wider sense of the self, just being open to this moment in a way that it sees and silently includes. And if there's a sense of resistance or pushback, it's to just welcome that too. Be open to the still silent field, the field of revelation and transmission, the intelligence that is constantly, intelligently moving within itself. It's like we enter the flow of that intelligence where the consciousness can recalibrate itself, upgrade itself, reorganize the patterning, and always restoring the highest possibility within every system of what we are ready for, what we are open to. And so as we make ourselves available to grace, grace comes flooding in. It's not a time and space process. It's an immediate and spontaneous opening to the presence field. like a realignment, a reattunement, where there's the, the knowing of the heart, just knows through the sense of just being. In a way, the answer is always love, is always to be here, so fully present, to know what the heart already knows, to be in this knowing without needing to know anything else. Allow the intelligence to flood and flow. Nothing to do, nothing to understand. Just to be real is a deep relaxation and opening to reality. That reality is the deep relaxation into yourself. That in the resting, in the openness, we're opening to the connection to Source so that we can be resourced from Source. It's a restoration of the seeming imbalance of power, that we restore the sense of feeling powerless, the sense of power being imbalanced. We restore through the connection to Source a sense of what true power is. That power doesn't come from the external, that power is the frequency of love, of heart, of openness, connection to the divine. Just resting. Resting and soaking in the transmission field of silent presence, being infused in total openness, just noticing what wants to be noticed. In openness, including everything. Can we actually taste here the sense of the boundless goodness that we are, the boundless goodness of the one heart, the goodness of God and glory. Allow that goodness of the one heart to be recognized as this all-inclusive receptivity, the technology of love that includes everything that we want to leave out, everything that we may want to put outside of our heart or life. That as we rest in this openness, we meet a quality of awareness, a light that illuminates and sees. It only sees itself. It sees its own essence in everything. So it includes everything. Everything is included. We meet this goodness, this purity, this innocence, this simplicity of heart that just sees only itself and doesn't divide or limit according to perception. It just receives itself. And that as we open in this presence field, this field of receptivity and fullness, recognizing this goodness that is the silent, sweet antidote to the learned posture to make ourselves wrong, to feel like there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with life, I've done something wrong. And that we can taste the sweetness of the goodness, the purity, the untainted innocence of the one heart. This connects to the sense of power, where we are resourced to illuminate and be present to and meet and receive anything and everything that is in the field of experience, through meeting and feeling and sensing and just allowing the unconscious to surface and be met and transmuted. We realize that the true power is the power to be open to everything. The true power is to not turn away from, not to resist, but to know that we are so deeply resourced and held in this goodness, this essential goodness. This is the true nature, a goodness, a joy, a happiness, a sense of simplicity and awe and wonder, and natural innocence. And as we open to the resonant remembrance of this as the true essence nature, we have this capacity to meet all that is arising, all that is in the field. And we recognize that we are equipped, that the technology of illumination and the technology of love is fully present in our hearts, in the one heart that is good and glorious. Mm. And the curious thing is that we dance and play with words, but it's never about the words. It's always about the frequency. It's always about the living resonance of where we are resting, where we are transmitting from, where we are living from, where we are resting and creating from. In simple terms, we can speak of the resonance of fear being our conditioned, protective, learned way, and the frequency of love being the all-encompassing reality. But of course, fear and love are not two opposites. Love is the all-embracing, all-encompassing that knows only itself, sees only itself. And so when we are resting seemingly in some kind of fear or lack or doubt, that too is love, but we can't know that from within the fear. We can only open for that to be revealed when we are resting in the frequency of love and openness. Because the frequency of love and openness is the all-encompassing, overarching, and the essence of all that is. And when we are resting in this frequency, we can be that goodness that sees itself, that knows itself, can reveal itself. And in a way, the fear, the seeming fear and protection and shame and guilt and holding that limits and divides can be revealed as the discordant patterning of protection and conditioning falls away, the revelation that it's all the same essence, the same substance, and that substance is love, is God, is glory, is the one self that we're waiting for, the one self that we're longing for the fullness of. And so in a way we come full circle here. We always come full circle. Because there's nowhere else to travel, nowhere else to go but into yourself and into yourself, right? Wherever we seem to travel on a tangent or a different trajectory or tributary, we're always called back into the river that's leading to the one ocean, right? We're always called back in. So the sense of coming full circle is that we always come back to what's true. We always come back to the very same presence. We always come back to the moment. And all of the seeming threads are always just weaving themselves back into one unified field and fabric in our lived experience. Because all of the threads, whatever they seem to be, they're all made of the same essence. And all of the threads and all of the journeying and all of the fibers and trajectories are always they're made of the same fabric. So they're just wanting to be woven back in our direct experience, in our lived experience. Always just wanting to be woven back into the natural fabric of the remembrance of the unified field, the field that is one, where that one knows itself and is in this constant intelligent flow within itself to know itself in order to tip the balance into that knowing being, a true undivided wholeness. And in a way, that's that flow of pure devotion or pure surrender that we speak of, that keeps integrity integral, keeps wholeness whole, that wholeness is in a constant surrender into itself, in pure devotion to itself, never leaving itself, never, ever, ever leaving itself. And even if it seems to divide into the whole crazy wild appearance of world and me and mine, it never actually divides. The integral wholeness never actually leaves itself in truth. And so we have this capacity within the majesty of our lived experience to recognize that even what seems divided, limited, fragmented in certain ways at times, the wholeness never actually leaves itself. And when we enter into that current, into that flow, we are being carried in pure devotion, pure surrender, allowing the intelligence of life living itself to just fold itself back into itself, collapse into itself, and majestically restore and recalibrate any misunderstanding that holds a belief in division or separation into the revelation of the wholeness that cannot be divided. And in a way, this is that one self, the fullness of ourself that we are longing for, the one that we are waiting for, that we are longing for this revelation and this deepening and opening within our own lived experience, a remembrance of our oneness with the divine, remembrance of what we belong to at the level of frequency, of resonance, so that we can open to this flow of intelligence that is naturally in the knowing of itself, flowing and folding itself into itself, and in that recalibrating everything that that we hold on to that keeps us in postures of division and lack and deficiency. And so that the repatterning of our own unique flows of consciousness, our unique nervous system can, in a way, have the frequency capacity to remember and rest in the resonant light frequencies, the subtle frequencies of, of the remembrance of what is the true nature. And in a way, like a rebalancing happening in the heart, a reorganization and a rebalancing, a reconfiguring. And yet, of course, in the same moment, the fullness is here, the revelation is here, the glory is glorious. The wholeness has never been divided, and that truth is awake and alive in the heart's knowing. And so it's this attunement with the frequency, sipping on the sweet nectar of where that revelation is alive in the heart. And as we sip on the sweet nectar of revelation, that sweet nectar of revelation is an intelligence that deepens and recalibrates itself, carries itself deeper into itself. So just resting here and just noticing what is happening now. What is happening now in the field of your direct experience. Mm. To be here, the resting, the relaxation, the openness that welcomes all of yourself, that receives all that you are. Naturally allows the recalibration and reorganization to bring revelation and clear seeing. Mm. Just noticing what is happening now. And the invitation is just to bring the presence back to the moment, to the openness. Mm. You already are, and the revelation is here in the heart's knowing, in the stillness, in the silence, in the vast, boundless field of silent presence. The revelation is here, and you already are. That in the sense of emptiness, there is fullness, a wholeness, a revelation, and that it's not abstract, that it's a living revelation that is the infinite, unbounded truth of the one nature, and a living radiance of a heart that is brilliant and bright. And it's this embodiment, this deep embodied radiance of heart, of knowing, of love, in the felt sense of being present here now as a field of silent presence, and feeling yourself here. And the fullness of the self includes the sense of expansiveness and the sense of the point. In a way, as the intelligence refines, it's as if we shift from our identification with the physicality to being more identified with the subtle body. And yet, so too does the subtle body and the light rejuvenate and restore and engage with the physicality, so that we have this seamless sense of embodying the light, being embodied, being fully present here, that we can feel the more abstract unboundedness, and yet that unboundedness is embodied in the felt sense of being here, and feeling and sensing and truly being open to the fullness of life, feeling, sensing, experiencing the fullness of life. And the difference is not being identified with the mind-body and the sense of fear and lack and guilt and shame that identified in our true nature allows us to live and embody and to be a fully integrative, living, flowing intelligence, right? That we are a living evolution of consciousness in our capacity as a human, and that we are in this glorious adventure of exploring what that is in its fullness, multidimensionally, in all of the ways that we are uniquely called, that it's rich and alive and vibrant and a glorious, glorious adventure. That there is no right and wrong, that the adventure is the exploration and the discovery, that the adventure is the journey into the landscape of consciousness and revelation and transmission, and a journey into the exploration of what God and glory really is. What is the divine? What is love? That we're not believing anything, and we're not dwelling in meaning that hasn't been fully explored and embodied, right? That the adventure is to explore it, live it, distill it through our systems, through our lived experience, so that the knowing is unquestionable. And again, this unquestionable knowing is what restores a sense of connection to source and being resourced from source, being divinely resourced, so that we're restoring that sense of a kind of autonomy which is rooted in our knowing of our oneness with the divine, knowing of our true divine nature, knowing of our true essence nature as pure innocence, right? And that our adventure of life is to explore this so fully, so that the knowing is unquestionable. And that's the freedom that we're longing for. That's the fullness of the self that we're longing for. That we're not looking for permission or validation, but we are finding that in the presence of God and glory in the heart, the remembrance of goodness, right? And the whole adventure of life with a human body is able to be then experienced in the full richness of everything that it offers, and that we realize that we're never making a mistake, that we're constantly in this flow, this circle that always circles back to itself, that we're always brought back to the moment, to the river that's flowing to the one ocean, right? And so in that we can trust, in that we can trust that when we say yes in the heart to the longing, that we're being carried in a current that is a flow of intelligence that knows. And when we enter the knowing of the heart, we enter that flow of knowing. We don't know anything. And yet the knowing of just the presence of being is all that is required. It's the pure knowledge, the self-knowledge. And as we enter into the current with that knowledge of the self, we don't need to know how, we don't need to understand, we're just carried in the current, in the revelatory field, the intelligence that does know. And we are constantly being refined and updated and upgraded and reorganized in our capacity to be able to access the intelligence that we're made of. Mm. And so just resting here and just noticing what is alive in your heart, in your field, what is being noticed, what is happening, and just being so fully present for the adventure of this moment, being so fully here for the adventure and revelation and discoveries of this moment, the richness and the grace and the beauty of this moment, whatever it brings, that it's always bringing something surfacing, and it's always only happening within, right? Whatever it looks like on the surface, it's just happening inside. That we are having this opportunity given by grace, by divine invitation to meet ourselves more deeply. And so just resting here in the richness and the beauty and the bounty of the adventure of this human life, of this moment, of this multidimensional moment of grace, as we're joined together in the one field, the one heart, the one goodness, the one love, the one glory, and the one longing of the heart. Whatever words we give to it, that we're joined in our true nature as the infinite, eternal, unbounded grace and glory. We're joined in our longing of the heart for love, for freedom, for truth, for peace, whatever it is, whatever words we would give, we're joined in that same longing. And we're also joined profoundly in the curiosities and quirks and stresses of our human life. We're joined multidimensionally. And it's so precious to recognize common be our prayer. Common be our intention. Common be this unfolding, right? It's one. This moment undivided is freedom. This moment undivided is love. This moment undivided is God and glory, radiantly shining as the one heart.